And it's the weekend. Welcome to Massey United Insurance's Line and Length. It's the cricket program where we look at the sport not only in the region but internationally as well. I'm Barry Wilkinson, a bit nasaled but still living, giving thanks. Well, it's been another wonderful week in cricket, but we're not going to focus too much on what is happening with this latest crisis. On today's program, we're going to take a different spin altogether because it's been 15 years this November since we've seen the passing of a cricketing legend. I'm talking about Malcolm Marshall. 15 years ago, 1999, is when Malcolm Marshall left us. And on today's program, we're going to take a look back at the career of this cricketing genius. With who else? No one else better to talk about Malcolm Marshall than the right excellent Sir Garfield Sobers. And as well, we have the king of stats, Mike King. We've brought him in to look at the stats of Malcolm Marshall and look back at how really good this fast bowler was. When we come back on Mass United Insurance's Line and Length, we start first of all with Sir Gary Sobers.
Across the Caribbean, more people are placing their trust in Massey United Insurance for the protection of the things that are important to them, their homes, businesses, and their prized possessions. That's because Massey United Insurance offers excellent general insurance coverage to help you manage whatever life sends your way. Our cadre of well-reputed agencies and trained insurance professionals are always ready to provide you with sound advice and prompt service. Choose the security and sound strength that is Massey United Insurance.
I live cool, I live fresh, I live life without the stress. Every day I feel my best, I live cool with lime or call. Feel the energy, feel the breeze, I feel like doing as I please. Relaxation comes with these, I live cool with lime or call.
Live cool with Limacol and feel the freshness of a breeze in a bottle. Limacol is trusted the world over and gives that easy, breezy Caribbean feel to all.
Every day I feel my best, I live cool with Limacol.
We're back on the Mass United Insurance's Line and Length. So we took a little trip to Sir Gary Sobers' house to just talk a little bit about Malcolm Marshall. The first question I posed to Sir Gary, what were your fondest memories of Malcolm Marshall?
I remember I came home in 1975, I think, 75 or 76, and I played for Police against Banks. And I remember going up to the ground and they were talking about this youngster who just came back from England with the Barbados youth team and how well he'd done and how quick he was. And I remember going into bat early on and the wicket was a little bit wet and he came in, he rushed into me and I played a couple and then he bowled me a couple of bouncers and I went down and said to him, listen son, I'm an old man. What do you want to do, knock me down?
How old were you then?
I think I was in my 40s. And he didn't pay any heed to that at all. He came up and started bouncing, so I had to take advantage of him. I think in that match I scored 70 odd. And I think that was our first meeting, and it was a good one because after that, every time Malcolm saw me, he respected me after that. And I remember that he came to me one day and he said, Skipper, he used to call me Skipper, he said, Skipper, I can't get the outswinger. And I said, well, Malcolm, I've been watching you a bit and I think you're running too straight. I said, you know, Michael Holding started this running straight, but look at Michael Holding, he's no bigger than that. You're small too, but Michael had it to perfection. I said, you know, if you come from an angle which you lead into your left shoulder, you'll find that you're able to get body action because it's closed and you find you get the ball swung away. And he did that and he started to bowl very well. And a matter of fact, when you listen to all the players who played with him and against him, they reckon he was the best.
When you look at the fact that he was, like you said, a small man, but was able to bowl in swingers, out swingers, and with pace, he didn't have the most test wickets ever. But what would you think would have made him the most special of his era?
I think he was special because he knew the game. He knew it quite well. And as the boys would rehearse to me at times when I talked to them about how Malcolm used to set up his players, he knew where their weaknesses was and he knew how to attack them. And I think it was great for him because he had the intelligence how to bowl to these players. And I think that's what made him that good. He was kind of quick, wasn't he? Rushing to the wicket very fast. I had a very fast arm action. I think that's where he got his speed from. But he was very accurate and he bowled very good bouncers. And as I said, he knew the game, he knew the weaknesses of his opponents when they came into bat, and he knew how to get them out. And I think that was his biggest success.
Do you have any vivid memories of any particular spell or match he might have played in that stands in your mind still?
Not really, because as you know, I don't watch a lot of cricket. But I've seen him on occasions. I've seen him bowl very, very well. It's difficult to recall those occasions because I was out in South Africa with them when he went out there, and he was the kind of coach with them. And I went to the nets to help him out, to look at some of the fellows that he'd asked me to come and do that for him. And I remember watching him a couple of times there, and you know, he was finished then. But in the nets, when he was bowling to the players, you can still see that he had it, you know. And I think it was very unfortunate that we lost him so early, because I think he would have been a great asset to West Indies cricket. I think that he would have been a great teacher as far as the bowling is concerned, because he was very good at that.
He would want to tell you that he had some batting ability as well, but he was a pretty useful lower order batsman.
He was no rabbit, as Bess always tell you, fast bowling, but also I can bat too.
You're talking about Tino, yeah.
Yes, you know, and I think that Malcolm was a much better player. I think he could have been counted as an all-rounder, really, because he had very good technique and he played very well. And he was a batsman that I think at times you could rely on him coming lower down in the order. So I would think that he was a very good batsman too.
So Gary, not just West Indies, but worldwide cricket. When you look at any bowler now, does any bowler now remind you of Malcolm Marshall?
No, I don't see any of them. I don't see that hustling and bustling coming into the wicket at that speed and this fast arm action. No, I don't see any of those bowlers these days. No, all of them seem to be very upright and come in on that high arm, and you know, and they're much taller too. I don't see any short bowlers like Malcolm. And first of all, you have to have that kind of player to look at him to see if he reflects back to Malcolm.
What about Dale Steyn?
No, Dale Steyn is a very good bowler. He's a different kind of action and a different type of bowler. He's not the same hustling, bustling into the wickets and delivering. He's one of the best in the world. He's the best now, I reckon.
Out of the crop of fast bowlers that they have now in the West Indies, do any of them stand out to you in your mind that could, if not emulate Malcolm Marshall, but could become as successful a bowler?
I can't see it, really. You know, you don't breed those fellas every day. You know, it takes a long time before you get players like that. And when you consider that the fast bowlers the West Indies had, there were great fast bowlers the West Indies had. And all of them would tell you, when you asked them about fast bowling, who thought was the best, they would say Malcolm. Not only because he was a great bowler, but he was a great thinker. And I think that is what it is in cricket, thinking. That doesn't matter how good you can bowl, how good you can bat. If you don't think properly, you're not going to make it.
When you look at Malcolm, how he bowled on certain pitches, would you say that the pitches helped him out any, or he was able to manipulate how he can bowl on the pitches? Well,
you do have pitches that will help you sometime, but I think Malcolm would bowl well on any kind of wicket. A little bit like Michael Holding. Michael Holding was a similar type of bowler. I think the West Indies fast bowlers in the era of Clive Lloyd were great bowlers, and they would bowl on anything. I saw, for instance, Michael Holding bowling on a wicket at the Oval that was very, very flat. The ball didn't get above stump heights, and I think he got 7 wickets, and he bowled extremely well, you know, and that takes some doing. And those bowlers were very, very good. Andy Roberts was similar, Jewel Garner, you know, Croft, they were great bowlers. But to get someone to look at that would emulate Malcolm, I don't see any of them around.
Right, wonderful stuff then. The great excellent and the red excellent, Sir Gary Sober, speaking about Malcolm Marshall. 15 years since he's gone, but for many, and Sir Gary, he will live on.
Across the Caribbean, more people are placing their trust in Massey United Insurance for the protection of the things that are important to them, their homes, businesses, and their prized possessions. That's because Massey United Insurance offers excellent general insurance coverage to help you manage whatever life sends your way. Our cadre of well-reputed agencies and trained insurance professionals are always ready to provide you with sound advice and prompt service. Choose the security and sound strength that is Massey United Insurance.
I live cool, I live fresh, I live life without the stress. Every day I feel my best, I live cool with Lime Call. Feel the energy,
freshness of a breeze in a bottle. Limacol is trusted the world over and gives that easy, breezy Caribbean feel to all.
Every day I feel my best. I live cool with Limacol.
Always great to hear from the right excellent Cigarfield Sobers, a brilliant man, and it's always a joy to have him on the program. Always a joy as well to have Andrew Seeley and Mike King, of course, well-known journalist in Barbados and statistician. Mike, welcome to the program. I think this is the first time you've been on the Massey United Insurance edition, but it's good to have you. We heard Sir Gary speak so eloquently about Malcolm Marshall. You would have covered many a match that he might have been bowling at in regional cricket, test cricket. What were your memories of the late Malcolm Marshall, some 15 years since he's passed on?
Well, before you, good evening, viewers. In fact, before you get there, I actually saw Malcolm Marshall's very first game, first class match. I think it was against Jamaica here at Kingston Oval 1978. If I remember well, I think Malcolm Marshall was run out for that without scoring. He was batting with David Murray. I remember Murray getting some pressure for having run out Marshall for that. Murray actually had to go on to get 100 because he was on a lot of pressure. I think Murray got 147. But I saw some of Marshall's finest bowling performances. I remember here against Pakistan in 1988, we were under some pressure in the second innings when he had to produce some of those outstanding spells. But the thing about Marshall that impressed me was his cricketing brain. Marshall could think out batsmen, very knowledgeable, could do it both ways, the outswinger, the in-swinger. And late in his career, the leg cutter became part of the armory. I think he worked a lot with Dennis Lee in developing that leg cutter, and towards the end of his career, he used that as a weapon to get a lot of his victims. Mike Gatton was one of them. In fact, he's gotten Gatton 7 times in 7 matches. But tremendous bowler Malcolm Marshall, 376 wickets at 20.94. Of bowlers who have taken over 200 wickets, he has the best average, 20.94, a wicket every 46 balls. 22 5-wicket hauls, 11 in the first innings, 11 in the second innings. Malcolm Marshall, one of the greats. If I had to pick great fast bowlers, Marshall, Lily, Hadley, probably in that order. Malcolm Denzel Marshall, a champion.
Not your typical fast bowler either, Mike. Under 6 feet tall, when he's lined up next to the legendary fast bowlers that we talk about, Joel Garner, Andy Roberts, Michael Holden, Colin Croft, Ian Bishop, Sylvester Clarke even, Wayne Daniel. Malcolm Marshall was the smallest of the group, but yet, to a man, they suggest that he was the one with the best brain.
Yes, he had the best brain. He didn't. You're right, Andrew. He didn't. He wasn't tall. He wasn't blessed with height. But it didn't really worry Marshall because Marshall really was a skidder. And some say too his action was a little too open. But it was effective. And Marshall was very intelligent, very incisive. Could get it go both ways. And it was pretty impressive all the way through his career.
Do you think, Michael, that we have forgotten about Malcolm Marshall in terms of perhaps looking at his videos to help and assist bowlers? Because a lot of coaching videos are done these days. I saw Darren Gangabrello, a brilliant coaching DVD. But when we're talking about coaching, we don't look back at perhaps some of the great bowlers like Malcolm Marshall that our fast bowlers can learn from. Do you agree with that?
No, I agree with you, Barry. In fact, there are a lot of things that we forget, really. We need to look at a lot of these players, the Marshalls and these fellas, and try to learn from these fellas. But what's interesting about Marshall and cricketers of his era, these fellas didn't have the videos the guys have got now, but the fellas used to. It was really brain work. The fellas who were thinkers and not rely on modern day technology. Marshall, Lily, Hadley, fellas who were thinkers of the game, fellas who were able to analyze without computers. And that is what really made Marshall and people Lily and Hadley Wakar special.
On any surface, Marshall excelled. He went to the UK on surfaces where we weren't sure that a fast bowler under 6 feet and a skidder as well, as you indicated, would have performed. And in fact, with one hand in a sling, Malcolm Marshall bowled out England.
Well, I remember that match.
I don't think anybody could forget it.
Yes, one shouldn't forget that. I think Marshall bowling with one arm really, took 7. But Marshall was a class act anywhere at all he could perform. In fact, Marshall has got 6 5-wicket hauls in England, 3 on the subcontinent, and that's the special too, because the subcontinent has been unkind to a lot of fast
Generally,
bowlers.
yes.
And Marshall has got 3 5-wicket hauls on the subcontinent, 6 5-wicket hauls in England. In fact, he has 94 test wickets in England. But a top class bowler, anywhere at all, and he could produce.
Mike, do you think him, you have the stats, you think him having played for Hampshire and for so long and so well would have really helped why he did so good against England, in particular in England?
Well, no two ways at all about that. But of course, you know, England is really the place where all of our cricketers, whether batsmen or bowlers, hone their crafts. And Marshall was no exception. Playing with Hampshire in the late 70s, early 80s. And he refined his skills and became a great bowler. In fact, Marshall really and truly, as you all know, did start as a batsman. And then, of course, developed very quickly. In fact, Marshall's very first test match, Marshall was actually for a string to Sylvester Clarke and Norbert Phillip at Bangalore back in 1978. And towards the end of his, of course, in the middle of his career, then he then took off. You know, so but Marshall, a class act, and could always a thinker. I think the only disappointment that Malcolm probably would have had as a cricketer was that his batting didn't.
He didn't become an all-rounder.
He didn't become the all-rounder. Because he fancied his batting. I know Malcolm would have been disappointed that he didn't actually get a test 100. I think if his highest score, I think it was a 92 at Madras. I think that's the only disappointment thing of his career from the batting aspect, because he had a lot of potential as a young man coming up in terms of his batting. But really and truly his bowling, classy, could produce against all the top class batsmen. Graham Gooch, who in fact was his last test victim. Graham Gooch's last test victim at the Oval in 1991. He got Gooch's wicket 16 times.
Wow.
He got an alarm 13 times. So I mean, Marshall was class.
And these are top batsmen, aren't they?
And these are top batsmen.
The cream of English batting.
David Boone 10 times. You know, in fact, of Marshall's 22 5-wicket hauls, we only lost 1 match.
Whoa, which was that?
That match was in fact at Sydney in 1989. The reason we lost that was Malcolm's fault. We didn't get too many runs in the first innings. A chap by the name of Alan Border got 7. We got just over 200. Australia then made over 400. I think Boone got a big 100. In fact, that is the match that Desmond Haynes made 143, probably his finest innings. So that was at Sydney 1989. So of those 22 5-wicket hauls, we won 17 of those matches. 4 of those matches drawn, and only 1 defeat, and that was at Sydney 1989.
What of his coaching, Mike? We don't often talk about Malcolm's coaching because that aspect of his career was rather short. But what of his coaching?
Well, Marshall knew the game, understood the game. In fact, when Marshall was coach of the West Indies team, in fact, it was said too that he learned Ian Allen, who he took to England, how to bowl the outswinger. Marshall knew the game. Marshall knew the game. Marshall was a student of the game and a thinker. And of course, we're talking international cricket, but Marshall also played a big role in guiding a lot of the youngsters here in Barbados. We've got to mention Banks because he started with Banks, and of course he did captain Barbados too. I mean, 1988, I remember that particularly well. And of course, I think in 1988, I think we actually won the one-day final with Marshall as captain.
All right, well, fantastic stuff. Only stuff you'll get from statistician Mike King. Earlier we heard from the right excellent Sir Garfield Sobers, so all great stuff. Of course, around the time of Malcolm Marshall's death, about a month later, the great Colin Hunt and Sylvester Clarke also passed away, and we have something special planned for their 15th, of course, the 15th year since their death, and that was, of course, in December, so we'll look at that next month. We want to thank Mike King for coming to talk about that. You're watching Massey United Insurance's Line and Length.
Across the Caribbean, more people are placing their trust in Massey United Insurance for the protection of the things that are important to them, their homes, businesses, and their prized possessions. That's because Massey United Insurance offers excellent general insurance coverage to help you manage whatever life sends your way. Our cadre of well-reputed agencies and trained insurance professionals are always ready to provide you with sound advice and prompt service. Choose the security and sound strength that is Massey United Insurance.
I live cool, I live fresh, I live life with Every day I feel my best, I live cool with lime call. Feel the energy, feel the breeze, I feel like doing as I please. Relaxation comes with these, I live cool with lime call.
Live cool with Limacol and feel the freshness of a breeze in a bottle. Limacol is trusted the world over and gives that easy, breezy Caribbean feel to all.
Every day I feel my best, I live cool with lime call.
So we're back on the show. Mike King is still here with us. Of course, the West Indies this week will leave to go to South Africa for a full series. You got 3 tests, you got 5 one-days, you got 3 T20s. It's going to be a pretty long summer, as they would call it, in that part of the world. How do you see the chances of your team? And let me just clarify for when I say your team, this man here is no West Indies supporter. He supports South Africa. So when I say your team, how do you see your team South Africa against the West Indies?
Well, I want to make a little correction. I'm still a West Indian, true-blooded West
don't
Indian,
know that.
but I'm a little sweet on the South Africa at times. But it's going to be a good series. One would tend to think that South Africa should blow the West Indies away, but I mean, it is still batting ball, it's still cricket. But a good betting man would probably bet with South Africa. But I think for this series, which South Africa is expected to win, we should really try to see how our young players, the Jerome Blackwoods, the Craig Braffitts, Leon Johnson, how these players do on this tour. Because that's important. I think it's not so much the team result. South Africa will win the series. I don't think there's anything to be about with that. But it's important to see how Craig Braffett, how he handles the hostility of Steyn, Markle and Philander.
Yeah.
But one difference, though, is that the South African spin attack is basically weak because Imran Tahir really not the real deal. And I think that we can look and see there's some frailty in the South African middle order. So it depends a lot on how Jerome Taylor and Kemar Roach respond.
Oh yes, as I said, it's not a done deal, but I think playing at home and the experience, but I think South Africa will come through. But the West Indies, it's going to be an important series to the West Indies to see how they're doing. In fact, they have a very poor record in South Africa.
Yeah,
the West Indies only actually won 1 test match
That's
there.
right.
So it's going to be interesting. The support that Kemar Roach gets
From Shannon Gabriel. What of Shannon Gabriel and or Jason Holder in South African conditions?
Well, Jason Holder, we want to see how he improves. He obviously has got some potential, but I think he still needs a yard of pace. He still needs to come to the fore as a big cricketer and develop and find out where his real strength is. I mean, in his only test match against New Zealand, he made 30 and 52, but he only picked up 2 wickets. Is he a batsman or is he a bowler? Is he an all-rounder? So I think Jason Holder needs to probably assert himself in one of those facets of the game, whether it be batting or bowling. So it's going to be interesting for a lot of the players. This could be Shanda Paul's last big tour too, and they're interesting tour.
I think we've heard that before, and I doubt it.
We've been saying it for the last 3 years.
And you know that England come to the Caribbean next year, so there's no doubt in my mind that Shanda Paul will play against England.
No, listen, they said his last tour, the last time he's actually touring, he will play the home series here against England where we play in Antigua, Grenada and Barbados. But I can't imagine, if Barry may be able to tell me, but I'm not sure the tours we have at the end of last year.
Australia come here, and then we are supposed to go to Australia at the end of next year.
Which would be 1 year from now.
Yes.
But if I were Shanda Paul, I wouldn't want to end my career as a 41-year-old in Australia. I think the smart move for Shanda Paul would be to finish at home in the Caribbean against England.
Against England, not even play against Australia.
Because to go in Australia to face Mitchell Johnson, Mitchell Stark at 41 on Australian pitches, I don't really think is a good way to end what has been an illustrious career. Because I think that Shanda Paul is playing now to pass a large aggregate of runs, that 11,953 runs. I think he's playing for that rate because Shanda Paul is a guy who plays for records and plays for himself. I think that's what's keeping him in the game.
All right, great stuff. So we've heard from Mike King, we've heard from the right excellence of Gary Sobers. For those viewers in Barbados, we saw the Master United Insurance spin thanks to Andrew Seeley. That has been our program. We hope you've enjoyed just shifting away a little bit from the ongoings of West Indies cricket, but we'll be back next week to update you and see how things are going. I'm Barry Wilkinson. That's it for Master United Insurance's Line and Line.